Today is a very, very special day. Today is first Sunday, which means baptism. Every month on the first Sunday, we just go ahead and put this on our calendar. You know, you schedule what matters the most, and baptism is something that's very important to us at Cultivate. So we just schedule it on the first Sunday of every month, and we've got people who have decided to take their faith public and be baptized. And baptism for us is really what we call the Christian, it's the wedding band of Christianity. You know, when I put this wedding band on my finger, a lot of things changed in my life. You know what I'm talking about? When you put this on, it means something. It means your life is not your own anymore. I belong to somebody else. And you know, baptism is saying, hey, my life is not my own. I belong to somebody else. And today, as they're baptized, they just want people to know that they're public with their faith, that God is number one in their life. And we also believe it's an act of obedience. We see that Jesus was baptized. Jesus had no sin. Jesus lived a perfect life, but he was honoring the Father. He was being obedient and setting an example to us to live a life of obedience. So today we've got two people, and I want to invite Eric Neely to come out. And he's going to be baptized first. And I've just had the privilege and honor to know Eric for many, many years. I was actually Eric's student pastor years and years ago. Eric, it's getting bad to be able to say years and years ago. But for all of Eric's life, Eric's always been real mature for his age, this little more than he needed to be. You ever seen somebody it was too good for him? You know, they had so much going on in their head, it was almost to the detriment to them. But Eric always had this desire his whole life to please God. And talking with him this morning about today, he said, I've been a Christian. He said, I've lived my life for God. He said, but I've decided over these last few months that I'm going to sell out, that I want God to have every single bit of me. He said, I've been reading my Bible more than I've ever read it before. He said, I've been growing more than I've ever grown before. And he said, I've never really fully understood the concept of baptism. He said, until I understood that it is obedience. And he said, I want to live an obedient life to God. So today, he said, I want to take my faith public and let everybody know that God is number one in my life. So can we turn our attention to Eric as he's baptized today?
Eric, because of your faith in Jesus Christ, it's my honor to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
It's incredible. Next, Linda Lee is going to come, and she's going to be baptized today. And Linda's been a part of our church since Easter of last year. She came to the egg drop and was invited by some family and came to Easter Sunday morning, and she's been an important part of our church ever since that day. And Linda told me, she said, I was baptized when I was 11 years old. She said, I was so young. She said, as life went on, she said, like many people, she said, I just find myself just farther and farther away from God. She said that relationship that I once had, she said, just life and things of life just took it away. She said, but when I turned 50 years old, she said, I lost my job. And she said, I was a nurse. She said, and I thought I would be able to get another job. She said, but the job just never came. And she said, I found myself going back to God after a long time and saying, God, do you hear me? God, I'm praying, but I don't feel you doing anything about the circumstance. She said, but I learned through that period with God to trust him more. And she said, when I showed up here on Easter Sunday, she said, I made a decision. She said, I'm going to live for God like I've never lived for him before. And she told me, she said, just a few months ago, she drove a friend to a job interview. And she said, I was in just an old T-shirt. She said, in a pair of shorts. She said, I certainly was not dressed for an interview. And she said, I just went in for support with my friend. And they said, hey, do you want to fill out an application? And she said, not looking like this, I don't. And they said, sure, come on in, fill out an application. She said, so I thought, well, it won't hurt. She said, I filled out an application, went across the street to eat lunch. And she said, while I was eating lunch, she said, my cell phone rang and they said, hey, we want you to come in for an interview. And she said, not like this. I've got to go get ready. They said, no, come as you are. We want you just like you are. And can I tell you that they hired Linda Lee? She's got a job, that God has honored her because she's been faithful, because she's given her life completely and totally to him. And she said, today, I want this to be public, that God is number one and he has all of my life. So let's celebrate with Linda today.
Linda, because you've placed your faith in Jesus Christ, I baptize you now in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.